Okay, Rabotai, we are continuing in Masechet Sanherdrin and the Talmud Bavli. We're on Daf Mem Dalud Amid Bet. We're on the bottom of the page in the new Mishnah and the English in the Art Scroll. It's on 44b4. So let's take a look. So we are currently in this chapter dealing with someone who is Hayav Skila, someone who is Hayav. He's found guilty of a capital punishment and he's going to be stoned. Okay, so continues here the Mishnah. Haya rahok mibet hasekila arba amot. When there are 4 amot away from the house of Skila, where they're going to make the execution, we're going to see, this is going to be a little bit more detailed of how it happens. But when they're 4 amot away, what do? Mafshitin oto et begadab. They take off his clothing. We already saw, but we're going to see again today that when we kill the man through stoning, we want to kill him. And we don't want to soften the blows with clothing. Because what will happen, he'll be in more agony and more pain. If you kill him, you stone him directly, you have a better chance of killing him right away. He's wearing cushion, right? It's going to take longer. He's going to be in more pain longer. We don't want that. And there's also a pasuk. The pasuk says you stone him and not his clothing. We're going to see all this. So mafshitin otot begadab. We take off his clothing. Now we want to take it off before we get to the Beit Haskila, before we get to the execution house. This way, everybody knows that the clothing have to go off beforehand. Not that we brought him there, maybe we got the clothing on. This way, make it clear to everybody who might be watching that the clothing must be removed beforehand. Now, obviously, we don't want to expose his genitalia. We always have the pasuk, we have sukkim that say that the erva, the nakedness, the genitalia has to be covered. So what do? Ha'ish machisin oto milafanav. They make a piece of clothing that covers his front genitalia, right? The man's genitalia, his private spots are in the front, so you have to cover them. Now, according to Rabbi Yehuda, this is going to be the words of Rabbi Yehuda. But according to Rabbi Yehuda, yes, you have to disrobe the woman if she's being led to execution for stoning as well. However, since her erva, her genitalia, is able to be visible from the back as well as from the front, therefore you have to have 2 pieces of clothing that are covering the back and the front of her genitalia, of her erva. The Chachamim, what the Chachamim say, and this is the way we paskin la halacha, the Rambam says, that's the halacha. The Chachamim ha'ish niskal arom. The man, he is killed via stoning while he is unclothed, when he's disrobed, except for that piece of clothing covering his genitalia. The Chachamim are not arguing with Rabbi Yehuda about the man's covering. They're just arguing on the isha part. Ve'ein ha'isha niskelet aruma. But the woman is not stoned unclothed. The Rambam says she just is to wear one robe, one chaluk, one garment, and the Tiferet Yisrael says it has to be a very, very, very thin garment. So the stoning it shouldn't be a cushion, right? We're going to see why. It seems to be maybe seniot reasons. Maybe we don't want to embarrass her more than necessary. Maybe it's enough of a deterrent that we're killing her. We'll see all these reasons in the Gemara. But that's the halacha l'maaseh. What we would do in the times of the Sanhedrin, if a woman would have to be killed via stoning, she would put on a robe or something that's very, very thin, but she would not be disrobed completely. Whereas a man will be disrobed, other than a patch of cloth in front of his frontal genitalia. Okay, continues the Gemara now. Tanu Rabbonon ha'ish machisin oto perek echad nilfanav. When you're coming to kill the man via stoning, you have to disrobe him except for a patch of clothing in the front. The isha shnei pirakim b'milufnei b'machareya. But a woman, you would put a patch of clothing in the front of her genitalia and in the back. Mipnei, why? Shikula erva, because everywhere you can see the erva. The woman's erva is seen from back and front. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. The Chachamim say, ha'ish niskal arom. Yes, the man, he is killed while he is disrobed, except for that patch of cloth in the front. Ve'ena isha neskel daruma, but the woman not. She has to wear a robe that is thin, just one robe, and that is thin. Now the questions. My tamahu darabanan. What is the reason for the rabbis? Why do the rabbis say that she doesn't have to be disrobed? Amakra, because there's a pasuk. What does the pasuk say? The pasuk says, "Veragmu oto," and you stone him. It's saying you stone him, a male. My oto, what would you think? Oto, ilema, oto, velo, ota. You can only stone males, but you don't stone females. That cannot be. It says, you take out the man or the woman to be stoned. So obviously a woman could get stoned via execution via the Sanherdrin. Elamayoto. So what does it mean? You stone him. That's what it means. It means oto below kesuto. It means him without his clothing, but specifically him without his clothing. Ha'ota bichsuta, but her with her clothing. So the pasuk says, "Regemu oto," we stone him alone without his clothing, but only him, not about the female. Rabbi Yehuda says, "Oto, him below kesuto, without the clothing." And loishna ish, loishna isha. But the pasuk is not making a distinction. The pasuk says you stone him, is using him as in the person, not as in the male. And it's just saying stone the person and not the clothing. And it's not making a difference between male and female. So how exactly look at the pasuk might be the machloket of Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim. Now, let's take a look a little further. Lememra. Is this to say, the Rabbanon chayshi lehirhura? Is this to say that the rabbis are worried about bad thoughts if a man will see the woman disrobed as she is being executed? Rabbi Yehuda loy chayish lehirhura. But he's not worried that if the man sees a disrobed woman that it will lead to bad thoughts, right? Because Yehuda says he's taking her out to execute, you have to disrobe her. So it must mean he's not worried about people seeing her in the nude and getting wrong thoughts, whereas the Chachamim seem to be worried. But can that really be the Shita? Can that really be the opinions of the rabbis and Rabbi Yehuda? But we've learned the opinions the other way around. Why? We have a case of what's called a Isha Sota, a Sota woman. So a little background about a Sota woman, right? This comes from Bamidbar, Sefer Bamidbar. A Sota is basically a woman who her husband sees is either flirting, talking, and too much to another man. And he tells her, please stay away from that man. And he says it in front of witnesses. And then witnesses see her secluding herself with that other man. They go into a room, and we have no idea what happens in that room. At such a point, because if we knew, we would deal with it differently. I have mitah, whatever. We don't know. So she becomes usher to her husband until they go up to the Beit HaMikdash, right? And there's a special procedure that goes on, which culminates with the water, the bitter waters that are put in, some of the earth of the Mikdash, the writing of the sota they put into there, and they give her to drink. If she is guilty, she will a miraculous death. All right, her belly will swell, her hips will fall. The pasuk says, and the Rambam says that wherever her param, wherever the person that she sinned with is, the same thing will happen to him. And if she is innocent, she will get brachot, and she'll have better children, and she'll be stronger and more healthier, and etc. So we're going to see that part of the process included embarrassing and tiring out the woman. The reason for this was the Kohanim didn't want her to drink the bitter waters. We rather her admit to her guilt, and this way you don't have to erase Hashem's name, and she won't die. You know, there are other things that they'll do to her, but she won't end up dying, right? So we want her to admit. So we're going to see what part of the process was. The Tnan. It says by Isha Sota, HaKohen Oches Bivegdeya. A Kohen takes hold of her garments. He takes hold of her blouse or her shirt, whatever the robe. They didn't wear blouses and skirts, so whatever long robe that they were wearing, he would take hold of that robe. And what would he do? Im nikru nikru, im niframu niframu, and he pulls on it. And if they tore, they tore. And if they became tattered, the stitches came off, or whatever, became torn in different places, that's fine. Ad shemagale et liba. And until we open up her heart, which means we open up the chest area, right? And you have to open it. And the reason is to embarrass her, to make her feel uncomfortable. The soter et se'ara, and we unbraid her hair. She has her hair all made up or whatever it is. We uncover her hair and we unbraid it again to embarrass her, to get her to admit to her guilt. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda says, this is what the Chachamim say. Chachamim say, and they don't give any qualification. They say you always do this. Isha Saida, you open her up until her, including her, you open up her chest, rip the clothing, you open her chest, and you undo her hair. Rabbi Yehuda says, if she has a very nice chest, lo hayomigalehu, then they would not open it. If she has very nice hair, we don't open it. So someone asked me on Shabbat, what does that mean? How do you define it? I don't know. I didn't see anyone define what it means to have a nice bosom or a nice hair. I'm not entirely sure how to define that or how they did define it. Someone wants to say maybe it goes by age. I don't know. Maybe when we get to Masachet Sota, we can see if there are any Rishonim or any poskim on that topic. But for our understanding here today, we have a machloket between the Chachamim and Rabbi Yehuda what to do by an Isha Sota. The Chachamim say any Isha Sota, you're going to expose her chest and expose her hair. Whereas Rabbi Yehuda says we will do it unless she is very pretty, and then we're not going to do that. So what's going on? It seems that It seems that Rabbi Yehuda is worried about lewd thoughts that the men might have if they see her, right? And that's why he's saying don't open her chest. But in our Gemara, in our Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion when you're executing her, you disrobe her, and he's not worried about improper thoughts. Whereas the Rabbanan in our Mishnah say don't unrobe her, don't disrobe her, keep her clothing on, right? Not all her clothing, just one cloak, and the very thin one, but don't expose her. Whereas by Sota, the Rabbanan say expose her. So if they have opposite shitot, are we worried about lewd thoughts or we're not? So Amar Rabba, so Rabba says, Hatam Hainu Tama. According to Rabbi Yehuda, there's a reason. There's a reason why he doesn't want by the Sota to expose her chest if she's pretty. Why? Shema Tetza Mibetin Zaka'a. Maybe she really didn't do the sin. You know, she did Avera. She secluded herself, Isser Yichud, and everything else with her husband, and she was flirting with the man, which she's not supposed to. But she didn't do the sin of being with, having relations with that other man. And now she's found innocent. So what happens? She survives. So what happens now? The youthful Kohanim who were there, they will become aroused and they will pursue her because she's alive. Ha 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 miktala. But over here, by execution, even if they see that she's dead afterwards, they can't go after and try to sin with her. So Rabbi Yehuda's thing is very practical. He says, listen, by Sota, she might come out alive, so we don't want the Kohanim to see her because then they might come and try to pursue her and to sin with her. But by the dead, okay, you expose her, but there's nothing doing afterwards. She's dying. It's not like we're going to pull her off the execution stage. She's dead. She's dead. So the Gemara says, well, 1 second, but maybe she's dead. Okay, but maybe the lewd thoughts that they had about when seeing her disrobed will now make them want to commit a avera with another woman, right? They saw this, and now they're going to do a sin with someone else. The Omar Rabba says, Gimiri, we have a tradition. En Yetzahara Charlotte El Bemisha Enav Ra'ot. The Yetzahara only prevails and makes you sin with a sin with you see with your own eyes. Meaning, if you see that lady disrobed, then that's where your Yetzirah goes. But if you don't see her disrobed, that's not going to make your Yetzirah go there. Maybe not that much. I mean, that's what he's saying. So therefore, so you see her disrobed and she's dead. Even if you had loot thoughts, those loot thoughts won't cause to any action because she's dead and you didn't see the other woman disrobed, so it's not going to cause you to sin with that other woman. So that's Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda's opinion is she's dying afterwards, so you can disrobe her. It's not going to lead to any bad thoughts. Whereas the Sota might come out innocent, and then the Kohanim who saw her might pursue her and want to sit with her because they saw her disrobe, and that might lead them to loot thoughts that might want them to sin with her. Okay, so now we understand Rabbi Yehuda's. Amar Rava, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Kashya, Rabbi Kashya. Was the question only in Rabbi Yehuda? And you're explaining only Rabbi Yehuda? And the rabbis were okay? The rabbis also, you have to explain. Why? Because the rabbis in the Mishnah said, don't disrobe her. But in the case of Sota, the rabbi said to disrobe her. So why? Elam Rav. Rabbi said, Rabbi Yehuda, like Rabbi Yehuda, we already explained Kiddush because we already learned. We explained the difference. We explained that here by execution, you're going to see, but it's not going to affect you afterwards. You have nothing to do because she's dead. But by Sota, she might come out alive. Therefore, we can't expose her. The Rabbanan like Kasha. The rabbis is also not questioned. They also have a reason why they say by Sota expose her, whereas by the execution we don't expose her. Omar Kra, because it says in Pasuk, "V'naveseru kol nashim v'lo ta'asena kizi matchena." What we do to the Isha Sota, there's a reason why we're doing all this. We're doing this in order to deter other women from doing so. They should see what happens to her. They will see what happens to her, how embarrassing and situation she's put in, and then they'll make sure to never do the same. So even though it might lead to loot thoughts in the men who might want to come to sin with her afterwards, the point is to deter other women from placing themselves in compromising positions, and therefore, that's why we always expose her, always disrobe her, and undo her hair in order to scare off other women from doing these averot. The Gemara says, and then the Gemara says, but in the case of execution, you don't need to disrobe her, because in order to dissuade the others, killing her, there's nothing more of a deterrence than actually killing a person. They see she died because of this averah. No one else is going to do averah because she's dead. You don't have to disrobe her as well. The Gemara says, but li avid b'tarte. No, do both. Disrobe her and kill her. This will be a real big deterrence. You embarrass her and you'll kill her. Amra Rabba bar Avua. Amar Kra. It says in Pasuk. And listen to this Pasuk. We always say this Pasuk. Look at the Gemara learns this Pasuk. Ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha. Right? Love your friend like yourself. What does this mean? Baror lo mita yafa. Find the easiest death for that person. Meaning, ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha means just like do to others like you love to yourself in death. Kill them in the nicest way. Since you're going to kill her, don't embarrass her also. Right? Look at Tosfot on the Hebrew side. The third Tosfot. So on the left margin, right? Not the furthest margin, but the second one outside the Gemara. So the third Tosfot is Bar lo mita yafa. Yesh mefarshim mishum, because dilarecha kamocha, to love your friend like yourself, lo shaykh mechaim. You cannot really do it when you're alive, with someone who else is alive. Why? Dechayecha kodmin. Because your life comes first. Because let's say you have one pitcher of water and you're in the desert. You cannot give that pitcher to someone else. You have to take it yourself. Why? Because your life comes first. So you can't really do b'yahav l'recha kamocha with a live person, says Tosfot. You only can do b'yahav l'recha kamocha with someone who's dead. And how do you do that? Or someone who's dying. And how do you do that? By choosing for them the easiest death. Therefore, says the Rabbanon, kill the woman, and when you kill her, you don't disrobe her. You just kill her with the stoning procedure without actually disrobing her, and that's of a haftal kamocha. So comes the Gemara and says, "Lema de Rav Nachman Tanoi." Maybe this is a machloket of the Tanoi, meaning that maybe this is what they're arguing about. Indeed, they must choose a favorable death is a subject of a Tanaic dispute. The Chachamim agree that you should have a favorable death, and therefore they say keep her clothing on. Rabbi Yehuda doesn't, and therefore he says take her clothing off. So says the Gemara, loy. The Kume Alma Itlahu de Rav Nachman. Everyone agrees to Rav Nachman. The Hachal Mike McLeod. Rather, they're arguing here, one is worse. Mar Savar Bizyonid Inish Adifo Lete Feminiacha de Gufe. One holds that personal degradation, embarrassing someone, is worse than killing them. Therefore, don't embarrass her. Keep her clothing on and just kill her. Or Mar Savar Nache de Gufe Adif Bizyone. That it's better to kill her quicker. Remember, because when you have clothing on, it cushions the blow, so you might live longer in pain. Others would hold that what they have to Mocha is the other way around. Taking over her clothing, killing her faster might be the better they have to Kamocha. Adif Mibizione is better than being and than personal degradation. So it's really both of them can be held after Kamocha. And the question is, how do you interpret that? According to the Rabbanan, it's better to keep her clothing on and let her be in more pain and die a little bit longer, take more time to die, but as long as she won't be embarrassed that she was naked. But whereas Rabbi Yehuda says, no, she would rather want to die faster so she's in less pain, therefore also take off her clothing and this way she can die faster because nothing is cushioning the fall and the stoning and all that other stuff. Okay, this ends the sugya over here. So we said the Rambam holds that, like the Rabbanan, but when it comes to execution, we will keep the woman's clothing on, but not all her clothing, just one robe, and it has to be very thin, and just one robe. This way, it's not going to cushion too much, right? One thin robe should be able to die as fast as if there was no clothing on, right? That's the idea behind that. All right. We're starting the next Mishnah in the process of how we do the stoning procedure. Beit Haskila Hayagova Shtei Komot. So now you come to the Beit Haskila, and the Beit Haskila was 2 stories high, right? So about the height of a man on top of another man, the height of a man twice the size. So 2 stories high. And what happens? Echad, and he stands at the side. Okay, the Rambam says he stands. We tie his hands, and he stands at the side. According to Medrash Tanchuma, his hands and his feet are tied, and he is either supported and then thrown off this 2-story building. One of the witnesses pushes him by his hips. The hepach al libo. Okay, if he falls on his chest, he is turned onto his hips. Okay. This is my focus. We're showing exactly how the process is. Do we want him to fall face down and then we turn him over? Or we try to make him fall face up and then we leave him that way? And according to some Rishonim, no matter which way he falls, we still have to turn him sideways to throw the stones on him. So there's a little different sheet to everyone. In the end, everyone holds you have to throw the stone onto his chest. So let's say we throw him down these 2 stories, and we put him in the proper position, whatever it might be, according to which way you're learning. The imate bo yotza. If he dies from the fall, then the Beit Din did what they had to do to kill him. The im lav, and if he didn't die from the fall, Hasheni, the second witness, notel eta evan benotno alibo. He picks up this stone, it's a big stone, and he places it or throws it onto his chest. In mace boyotza. If he dies from this, good. If not, Rigimato bechol Yisrael. Then all of the Jewish people start to stone him. Shenemar, as it says, Yad ha'edim tieh bo v'rishona. The Edim have to be the first ones to kill him, lahamito. V'yad kol ha'am ba'acharuna. And then the rest of the nation comes afterwards. Okay, so that is the process of stoning. Good to learn this process. On Yom Kippur, we which is like Purim, Purim's like Yom Kippur, right? We imagine that that we're going through these four death penalties of Bedin, right? If you don't know the process, how can you imagine it? So this is it. They bring you up and they push you down, and if you survive that, then they throw a big stone on you, and if you still survive that, then everyone starts throwing stones at the person. So Tana, Tana Baita, the Koma Shalo. Now it's really 3 stories high. You have a question?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you clarify by witness who they mean? The witness supposed to throw a stone. Okay. The actual witnesses in the case.
Yeah, the witnesses in the who came and gave testimony in Betin that because of their testimony they're killing this person now. They're the ones who have to start off the death penalty.
It does not discourage the witnesses from coming in?
No. They're the ones who said they saw what they saw. They're now the ones who are the executors. Yeah.
But they're taking an extra responsibility by being a witness in the case.
Yeah, we told them from the start that we were going to kill somebody, and every person is a whole world, so you better be serious about it. Yeah.
But that's understandable. We understand that. But yeah, by doing the action themselves, now that's my concern.
I hear you, but that means that's how adamant and truthful they are, right? You wouldn't do it unless you know for sure the person is chayav mitah. Maybe that's the reason why we make them do it. Yeah, but it is them. It is them. Vikoma shalo, harei kan shalo. So don't forget his own height. So it's a 2-story building plus his own height. He's three stories high. Why do we need all this? Why do you need him to be 3 stories high? Orminhu, we already learned in Bava Kama. Ma bor shehu kidei la'amid asar tzvachim. A bar, a pit that is 10 tzvachim, which is relatively much smaller than 3 stories high, and an ox falls and then the ox dies. And we know that kills. 10 tzvachim kills. Av kol kidei la'amid asar tzvachim. 10 tzvachim kills. So why do we need it to be so high? Why need to be so high? So some approachers want to say there's a difference by a bar. The difference is usually when you fall into a bar, you're falling in there by accident. 10 tvachim could kill you if you fall in there by an accident. But if you know they're about to push you off, you're able to protect yourself or put yourself in a certain way that you don't die from that. So therefore, that's why it has to be taller. But let's see what the Gemara says. Amar Nachman, Amar Rav bar Avua, Amar Kra. You know why? Because you have to love him like yourself. What? I see someone says that fox and humans are different. That is true, but we see in Bava Kama they compare the ox to a human. That even a human, right, the passage that compares it as well, that even a human can die in 10th of a boar. Choose a nice death for them. Why? So what's the difference between 10 tvachim and 2 stories high? 2 stories high, you're much more likely to die from impact than when you're going to 10 tvachim. So therefore, we want you to kind of like have a guaranteed death. So therefore, to be quick and less painful. So therefore, we make it 2 stories high. The Gemara says, "Ihachi, so make it even taller. Make it 10 stories high. Go into the Empire State Building and then push him more from there." So Gemara says, "No, we can't do that. Mishum diminaval, because what will happen is the body will become grotesque. It will become disgusting because the body will be deformed as it falls from so high. He'll become a splatter on the ground or a pancake on the ground or whatever it is. So yeah, we want to, ensure that he dies a quick and painless death, but we also got to keep the body intact. We don't want to make it look disgusting. So therefore, we can't go that high. Okay, one of the Eidim pushes him. Okay, 1 second. You're telling me to stone the guy. Why are we pushing him? Right? It never bothered you? We're saying stone him. They say no, push him up and then stone him. We don't do that when we're going to kill him with the sword, or we're going to strangle him, or give him srefa, or giving him to drink molten lead. We don't say, okay, come up here, let's push you down, and then do these other things to you. How does this become part of stoning? Right?
Maybe the impact helps the victim to
Right,
digest
but
it
I
faster.
hear you, but where do we get this from? What does throwing them down have to do with stoning? Stoning is taking a stone and stoning them. So let's take a look. It's actually a pasuk. From where do we know that you have to push them down? I tell you where. Talmud Leimer Yaro. The pasuk says he should be thrown down. Where is this pasuk? So if you take a look at the Hebrew side, and the rightest margin, where it says this first one is Masaris Hashat, then is Gilyon Hashas, then is Torah or Hashalim. This usually brings all the psukim that are quoted in the Gemara. It brings the full pasuk and tells you where it comes from. So look at the last one, Vav. This is coming from Sefer Shemot when it dealt with the Har Sinai. When we're coming to get the Torah on Har Sinai, it says Loi Tiga Bo Yad. No one should touch it. Right? No one should come close to Har Sinai. Kisakol Yisakel. It'll be stoned. Oh, or Yaro Yared. They'll be thrown down. So it says stoned or thrown down. In Behema, in Ish, they won't live. Those who go up the mountain will be killed. And it says they're either stoned or thrown down. So Tamid Loimer Yarod. That's how we know we have to push him down, because it says to throw him down. Uminayin should be skila. And how do you know you have to do skila? How do you know you have to stone? Tamid Loimer Sako. It says to stone. Uminayin should be skila with the chiyah. How do you know to do both? Pushing and stoning. So Tamid Loimer Sako Yisakel. Oh, Yaro Yireh. Or, which means either or. So you can do pushing or stoning. How do I know if he just pushed, it's okay? It's its own thing. Either pushing or either stoning. Came. And how do you know even for future generations you do this? It's Talmud Leimer, because the pasuk says Sakol Isakel, which it says it in a future tense that you will stone. So now I know a lot of you will have the question that what? But how do I know I do pushing first? Right? That's not what the pasuk says. The pasuk says what? The pasuk says you stone first and then pushing. So which one is it? So let's take a look over here for a second. I'm gonna just read to you from the Masifta Gemara. It brings a few Rishonim over here. Even though stoning is mentioned first before pushing, but first you're going to do pushing. Why? Because later on, when it says you're going to end up killing the person, it says stoning finishes off the process. So from another pasuk we see that stoning is the last thing to do when you kill him. That's a Tosfot. Yad Ramah says, "Shalom istabrish achash skuim adam yalo to lebeit askila dechosav elu behechach kavanas atayra shikimus achil askila." He says, "What are you going to do? Stone the guy so he can't stand anymore, and then make him walk up 2 flights and then push him down? It doesn't make any sense. Obviously, you're going to push him down. Push him down first. Push him down first." Rabbi Yonah Kosav Shavadai Dichik Kedamas Askila. Rabbi Yonah says, for sure you push first. You can't stand them up. And the Rambam says he has to stand. He can't stand them up. The reason why he brings skila first, says the Herem, because the ikar way that the most of them die is through the stoning at the end. That usually they didn't end up dying from the fall, even though we tried to make it that way. But usually, most cases required some form of skila, at least one of the Adam throwing one of the stones. At least that part needed to happen before the guy actually died. So therefore, Therefore, it's written the way it is. So even though the pasuk seems to be out of order, Mistaber, the way it is that you push first, and that's the way it was actually done. Someone said something, I missed it. You want to say it? There's still something in the chat. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's the idea because we want him to die from the impact of a fall. No,
Right.
that's what we earlier.
Yeah.
This will be
Less.
less.
Also, we want him to die from the fall, and then if necessary, then we'll actually throw a stone at him.
Correct.
Okay. Good. So that's how we know that it applies to all generations and the process. So now we know it's actually possible. Say again?
Is this an idea just to help people who are doing it not have that achzarut towards the one who is dying, or what's the idea? Know what I mean? Besides what you just mentioned.
The idea is that we don't want the person to be in more pain than necessary. Yes, we have to kill him. They have to kill him in a nice way. Right? That's a Musar Haskell, right? Sometimes we're embarrassing somebody, which is also like killing. We should embarrass him in the most easiest way. When we're going to kill somebody, we should think about the Musar Haskell there. Okay, let's move on. The imlav ad hasheni notel. Trying to look at the time. Okay, move it up. If he didn't die from the impact, then you have to throw a stone on his chest. Notel. Does he pick it up himself, the second witness? There was a stone there, and it was the weight of two people. Notla, he would pick it up and then he would throw it on his chest. If he died, then that's okay. That's a good way to kill him, according to the Beit Din. The Gemara says, one second, the Bright itself, it says Adam, it's carried by two people, but then it says that one person puts it on his heart, on the other guy's heart. Ayla, what happens is as follows. Rather, the two witnesses pick it up together. And then one of them lets go, and the other one throws it down. And that the stone will come down with more force. Because if two people are trying to throw something at the same time, if one of them doesn't let go at the same time, then you have you have it coming down with less force, right? Because we have the law of inertia that something that's in movement will stay in movement unless an outside force stops it. So if I'm throwing it and you're still holding on to it, it's not going to throw very well. So therefore, you want only one person to throw it, so it'll come with more impact and likely to kill him even faster. And if that didn't kill him, then everyone started to throw stones at him. But really, but we learned people never got a chance to throw the stones because usually after the second witness threw the stone, the guy was dead. So there's a really that everyone would throw stones. The Gemara says, "Me coming into Ovid." We never said that it actually happened, but rather that was the plan. If he didn't die from the second witness's stone throwing, then everyone else would get in. And if he didn't die that way, then everyone would come in and throw the stone. It's good to have a plan, right? Especially when you're in the judicial organizations, institutions, governments, legislations. You need to have a plan. So the plan was that if he didn't die, the second one is throwing the stone, then everyone else would come in and throw the stones. Amar Mar, Evan Haita, there was a stone there. It was a specific stone. Could it really be that there was only one specific stone? That Tanya was taught in the Braita, Achat Evan Sheniskal Ba. You killed him with the stone. Achat Eishinat Olav, if you hung him. Achat Saif Shneharig Boy, if you killed him with the sword. Bechat Sudan Shnechik Boy, if you strangled him. Kulan, all of them, Nik Barin Imo. You bury it with him. So how could it be that there was a specific stone? They say Evan Haita, a special stone was there. Yes, there's always a special stone, but the special stone is different every time, right? Each one for each death. And then afterwards, it would be buried with the person. Nick Barinimo, and Rashi says the reason why we bury with him is because we don't want to embarrass him. We don't want afterwards someone to say, see that stone, that killed Johnny, right? Or you see that tree, that sword, that, we don't want people to keep saying how he died. So we don't want to embarrass him. So what do? We bury with him. The Gemara says about Tanya, but we learned that we can't bury with him, right? But Derek Klal, generally speaking, we don't bury a dead with something. He's buried alone. Somewhere Papa my Ima. What does it mean with him? It doesn't mean in his kever itself. Imo betfisato. It means within his dalid amot, right? The halach is you go into a cemetery, you're not allowed to have your tzitzit sticking out. Why? Because you're not allowed to learn Torah within dalid amos of the kever. Why? Because you're embarrassing the mate who cannot do any mitzvot anymore, right? And that's within Dalit Amot, because even though he's dead, he still has his 4 amot, right? Everybody has their 4 amot. So therefore, it's buried there. We wanted to say, I didn't see it anywhere, but on Shabbat, while we were learning, I wanted to venture that maybe a reason for this, another reason for this, rather than just not embarrassing him, maybe another reason is, it's a kapara for him. His death is a kapara, right? So maybe when he calls up the Shemayim, they'll say, oh, did you get kapara for what you did? And they'll say, hey, look, I'm buried with it. It must be that you got the kapara. It's like a proof for him to go to the next world. All right, it's possible. Omar Shmuel. Shmuel said, Nikta yada edim potter. Okay. All right. So we need a little understanding what's going on here. We said the yad ha'edim. Pasuk said the hand of the witnesses have to kill the man. Right. So what happens? This is the case the Gemara wanted to say. All right. Ruvain did a capital punishment case. Shimon and Levi witnesses, they come and they say, we saw what we saw. They came when they were shalom and bari, they were healthy and they had all their limbs and appendages and all their fingers and hands and everything. Now comes the day to execute them, and Reuven, Shimon and Levi, the witnesses, have had their hands chopped off. They got into an accident. I don't know what happened. Maybe the mafia got to them, or whatever it was. They were working on their car. They were working on something, and their hands got chopped off. They don't have hands anymore. What happens now? Because the witnesses can't push him, and the witnesses can't throw the stone. So what happens? It says Amar Shmuel, Nikta'a yada edim, butter. If the edim's hands are missing, then the guy walks. You can't kill him. Right? Don't tell us to the mob, right? But this is according to halacha, according to Shmuel. If the edim's hands get chopped off, they cannot kill him anymore. So therefore, the guy walks. My tama. What's the reason? Because you need, the pasuk says, the hands of the witnesses have to kill him. The lake guy, you don't have the hands. The pasuk says you have to have the hands. Sigmar says, wait. If that's the case, why are you giving me the case? Why are you giving me the case where the hands got chopped off after they gave testimony? Let's say the guy who came originally to give testimony, right? He already was missing his hands. So the whole thing will be possible, right? Why are you giving me the case about their hands becoming severed after they gave testimony? Let's say the guy didn't have hands. He was born without hands. His hands already got chopped up beforehand or whatever. Does it also be possible? No, it's different. Yad ha'edim shahayita kivar. Should carry out the death penalty with the hand, which implies that whatever hand the witnesses had before, meaning since they were missing their hands beforehand, then whatever they had was considered their hand. And as such, they still have that. But these people who actually had hands, and now their hands are not there, that's why they're no longer hands. And now the man walks. So what we just learned is that you have to follow what the pasuk says, literally. Pasuk says the hands, you don't have hands. You had hands, and now you don't have hands. You can no longer kill him. He goes free. Gemara now is going to question this. Meitve. We have a Mishnah in Makot. Mishnah in Makot says, Kom makom she'idu shenayim v'yomru. Anywhere two witnesses come and say, Meidin anu be'ish ploni. We're witnesses about this man. Shenigmar dinu v'beidin ploni. That in our city, Beitin charged him, and they found him to be guilty. Uploni edav, and these are his witnesses. Harei zeh yaharei. So we let's say this. So two witnesses come into another beit in another city and say the guy who's living here in our old city, he was condemned to death by beit and he ran away. We couldn't kill him, but he needs to be killed. This is the whole case, and they give testimony to that. And the Mishnah says you kill the guy. So you see, you don't need yad ha'edim. Mishnah says you kill him. So Targum Shmuel says no. Yeah, you kill him, but why? The hein edav. Because these witnesses that are coming now to the second Beit Din to say that this guy was condemned to death in the first Beit Din, these are the same witnesses who were the witnesses in his first case. They now came to another city and saying what happened and that they're the Edom. Oh, now you're the Edom, you can actually kill him. So you do have Yad HaEdom. So Shmuel is able to answer up that Mishnah depending on the way he learns it. So now the Gemara is going to ask a whole different question. Do we really say we have to be so literal with the pasuk? The pasuk says the Yada Edom, we have to really do the Yada Edom. We can't use a shliach, can't use an agent. It can't be some other way, but he can press a button with his nose and make the whole thing happen. Why has to be with his yad? Do we really need to do it the way the pasuk says? Well, we have a pasuk by a rotzeach. Rotzeach is a murderer. So someone is a murderer. Pasuk says, "Mot yumat hamakeh rotzeach." We have to kill the murderer, right? Mot yumat. You should surely kill him. I might think you have to kill him only with the way that he's supposed to be killed with, which is with a sword, right? You chop his head off. Maybe that's the only way to do it. How do I know that if he tries to escape, or we can't kill him with the sword, that we can kill him with any other method? How do we know we can do that? Talmud Leimar, mot yumat hamakeh. He should surely die, meaning mikol makom, from any place. So you see by a murderer, that what? That you could kill him in any way. Why? Shani Hak, the Gemara says there is different. It says surely be put to death. The Gemara says, okay, good. And let's learn from there to everywhere. Let's learn from there to everywhere. That motumat, you should kill him no matter which way. Yeah, you should try the way the Torah says. Torah prescribes to kill the guy. But if you can't kill him that way, you kill him anyway. Why don't we do that? So the Gemara says, "Mishum dehaver rotzeach begol hadam shnei ketuvim v'bayin ke'echad. Chol shnei ketuvim v'bayin ke'echad ein melamdin." Truth is, the Gemara says, you're right. If it was only in this case of the rotzeach, we would learn it everywhere. Because if the Torah is coming out to teach us a special law in one place, we can say the law is applied everywhere. But once the Torah says it in two places, then we say we don't learn it to everywhere. It must be just in these two places and nowhere else. And that's why the Torah says it in two places. Otherwise, could have said it in one place, and we'll learn from there that it goes everywhere. That's one of the principles of how we darshan the Torah. So where is the second one? It's a goel hadam. A rotzeach hadam amra rotzeach. We already know it says mot yumat, but goel hadam. How do we know that it means more than the goel hadam? So what is the goel hadam? The kitzer, right? The goel hadam is the avenger, right? Not the Avengers, but avenger. He's the blood relative from the father's side of someone who was killed accidentally, right? So the guy runs to Ari Miklat, and he has a right to kill the murderer who murdered accidentally if he is to leave the Ari Miklat, right? Now, what happens if he has no family on his father's side at all? Then is there anybody who acts like a Goel Hadam? So we learned that yes, the Beit Din can appoint someone to be Goel Hadam. The Tanya, Goel Hadam Yimit Rotzeach. The Goel Hadam, the Avenger, can kill the Rotzeach, the murderer who murdered accidentally. Mitzvah the Goel Hadam, the mitzvah by the relative who's considered the Goel Hadam. How do we know if he has no relative from his father's side to do this? That the Beit Din can put someone there to do it for him. Shenemar, it says, when he encounters him, when anyone encounters him, which means mikol makom, that the Beit Din could appoint an avenger to encounter him and kill him. So this way he'll be forced to stay in the Arei Miklat. So now we see we have two teachings that teach us the mikol makom. Even if you don't have what you need, you can use something else. Right? You have it by the Rotzeich and kill him anyway. And you have the Goel Hadam. If you don't have a Goel Hadam, you can use someone else to be the Goel Hadam. Therefore, you can't learn it to everywhere. Now the Gemara is going to bring proof to Shmuel's position. Right? Shmuel's position is you have to follow the pasuk as it says. Do we not require that it should be like the pasuk says? But it says, if by a certain right, 13 to 13.5-year-old boy who goes off the derech and he's eating and drinking and stealing and all that, the parents are to take him out to kill him. And it says there a lot of qualification. If one of the parents are missing a hand, or Elaim, or was mute, or Chiger, or was lame, or suma, or blind, or cherish, or deaf. And asa ben sarimar. You cannot make ben sarimar. Why? Shnemar. It says the tapasubo. You have to grab him. If you don't have a hand, the loigidman, you cannot grab him. The hotzioto, you have to walk him out. So if you're lame, you can't walk him out. The Amiru, you have to speak below limit, and not if you're mute. Benenu, that our son that we see below suman, not someone who's blind. And Nenu Shemem is not listening to us, but and that we're not deaf. So you have to have all these qualifications in order to make it ben Sayer Merit. So is it not because we need to follow what the pasuk says? So the Gemara says, "My tama, no. My tama, is it not la mishun to be in karakedichdid because you have to do exactly the pasuk says, pick him up, take him out, and all that." The Gemara says, "No, not because you need to follow the exact pasuk, but rather, shani hasam there it's different. Not because you have to usually follow what the pasuk says literally, but rather because usually the Torah never speaks about the pre-trial of what has to get done before the trial happens. Usually it just says you witnesses, you come and you go through the trial. Here it starts saying what the parents have to do. It must be the Torah is coming to teach a specific case that over here, they have to have all these qualifications. So now we'll try to bring another proof to Shmuel's opinion. Tashma, we have by Ir Hanidacha. Ir Hanidacha is a city who most of its residents went to serve Avodah Zarah. Now you have to kill out, to investigate, and anyone who'd serve Avodah Zarah has to be killed. And everybody's stuff, even the tzaddikim who lived in there, has to get burnt. So Tashma. And the pasuk says you burn everything in the town square. So Ein Lo Rechoy. What happens if you don't have a town square? Ein Naset Er Hanidacha. You don't make Er Hanidacha. David Rabbi Shmuel. That's what Rabbi Shmuel says. Ein Lo Rechoy. You don't have a public square. You don't have a town square. Oisin Lo Rechoy. We'll make one now, and therefore you can still make Er Hanidacha. Ad Kan Lo Pligi. Nobody's arguing. No one's arguing that you need to have a town square. El Mar de Savar. Rechova Dimi Karab Me'inon. You need the town square from the beginning, when the town was first made. Umar Savar, whereas the other holds, once you have it, you have it. Doesn't matter when it is. Everyone holds you have to follow the pasuk. Pasuk says you need a rechov, you need a rechov. Whether you can make a rechov now or before, that's the machlokah. But everyone holds you have to do what the pasuk says. And we have now, it's actually a machlokas tanoim, if you have to follow to the T what the pasuk says. Tanoihi, it's a machlokas. It's not. We learned by the mitzorah. By a mitzorah, he has to have a special procedure to become tohar. Part of it is that they have to put certain thing on his right toe, on his right hand, and on his right ear. So what happens? Ein lo bohen yad bohen regel ozen yamanit. If he doesn't have his right hand or his right toe or his right ear, what happens then? Can they do the tahara process? So one time it says ein lo tahara olamit. You can never mitara him. He doesn't have the possibility to do it on these places, and he doesn't have them. He stays tamei forever as a mitzorah. He never comes out. No, you just do it on the spot where it should have been. Meaning, if he's missing a hand, whatever stump you have there, that's where you'll put it. Shimon says, no, you don't have the right. Notin al simulov yotze. So you put it on the left and your yotze. So you see, it's three-way machloket here, right? And it's the machloket. You have to follow the pasuk directly or not. According to when I say you have to follow directly, you never be able to make a mitzorah tahar if he's missing right hand, right toe, and right ear. Whereas the others say you don't have to follow the pasuk directly. You can either use the spot or you can actually use the other side. Okay, so this is where we'll get up to for today. Any questions? Take it off record.